All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's that time of the week. It is time for some more CTC. Today it's round 10 and the start of the fourth stage of this five-stage season. We arrive at Suzuka in Japan, and as always, I am joined by Matteo. And well, are you looking forward to yet another stage of this great championship? Sorry, I had you muted there for a second. Getting myself confused there for a moment. But sorry about that, Matteo. Would you like to say that again? Sorry, I had you muted there for a second when I started the stream. Okay, okay, everyone, we're just gonna take this one from the top. All right. Welcome back. It's that time of the week. It's time for some more CTC. Today we arrive at Japan for round 10. Hello, I'm joined by Matteo. Matteo, how are you doing today? One sec. Sorry everyone for the technical difficulties here. Mateo just got himself a new PS5, so we're just trying to sort out all of his microphone settings so you can hear him. So we're just going to delay the intro by one more minute.
can I be heard now? I think. Is it all good?
Okay, sorry everyone for the technical difficulties there, but we have finally figured it out and we are ready. So, yeah, so obviously, sorry for those technical difficulties, everyone. Thankfully, the lobby didn't start while we were setting all that up, but hopefully, shouldn't have that problem again. Obviously, Matteo getting his new PS5 just had to sort out all of the settings. But let's talk a little bit more about the round itself now that we have all of that sorted. Sorry, there. Today. But how about we have a look at the standings before we come into this round? So, if we take a look at the standings here, as always, Talent Factory are leading, and coming into this round, they have a 71-point lead over Outplayed Racing, and Neverlast Racing just 9 points behind Outplayed Racing. And Rosso Esports in the background in fourth place, but obviously their team has closed down and they are now being replaced by G League, so they are out of the championship. But yeah, looking at those standings, we start another round with Talent Factory in the lead of the championship, and the margin just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. There's only 6 more rounds to go in this season. Do you think Outplayed Racing still have a chance in this championship and to fight back against the Ferrari pairing?
I think they certainly could do. It's just about finding the time and the pace to beat those two powerhouses, which always, week in and week out, are ready. They're committed to Talent Factory. But for this week, of course, we have some new faces, some old faces. So let's have a look, starting with our newcomers, G League Esports. They've got Ethan and Thibaut lining up for them. Of course, the team is currently winning IKR Pro Division. And then we have Outplayed Racing. They've got OP Nando. We've seen him, and apparently he has great pace on this track. And then we have OP TM also, but he was a last-minute reserve, and that is because Kian, unfortunately, could not make it today. Team Ace, another French team. They've got Ace Tom and Grosjean lining up. BNLRE, they bring Sanchowitz and Snarfche to the table tonight. TF, of course, it's Legend and Ruddy, as always. NLR Esports, of course, the returning Axelino and Ruffy, proving to be some great drivers. Hopefully they can rack in those points as always. TTG, their points in the standings haven't really reflected on their races, so hopefully a bit more luck from them and they could get themselves higher up. They've got Oliver F1, a new face, I think, to the team and also the competition, and they've got Predator racing for them. ET8, they've got Il Genu and Niceslope, and then last but not least, as one have Robin West and one Elliott driving. Both of them have some great pace on this game, so I think it is all up for grabs. Tonight's 17 minutes left in this qualifying session, and that will mean 17 minutes for the drive to see where they will get placed on the grid to start the race, as everyone setting up, getting their setups on and putting on their slick tires. And we can see a Red Bull already out on the track. I think that could be OP Tim or OP Nando. I think the first one out is OP Tim, not new to the competition, but new to Outplayed Racing. So let's go ahead and ride on board with the newcomer to OP. Of course, his debut in CTC for Outplayed, as he's going to head into the first sector of the track. A lot of corners here, very easy to lose the rear through this left-hander, but of course on the outlap it's all calm. We can see such a nice and peaceful environment here as he's heading into this really fast section of the track. A right-hander and then yet another right-hander will lead him to the slow and curvy left. As we can see, the Red Bull 100% ERS all ready and charged to go on his lap. ET8 Gustav retiring from the session immediately. I think that could be a qualifying ban for the McLaren, as OP Tim is going to be heading to the final chicane of the lap very, very shortly. Now, this is the penultimate, of course. The two left-handers, and we can see a bit too much speed there as he's forced to slow down, but we cannot tell for sure anything just yet. This right and then left will lead him to start his first banker lap. We can see a lot of drivers out on the track as well, as OP Tim heads flat out through here on his hot lap. And now finally, he will be starting his lap as he slows down, hitting those markers, and up to 6th, activating the ERS and the DRS now, and he's going to start his banker lap. There goes OP Tim in the Red Bull for the first time. Let's see what can he do now as he's going to head into the right-hander, missing the curb a bit, but still taking a lot of speed through there, which is really crucial. A lot of traffic there, but no drivers blocking him at the end of the day. Maybe a small distraction, but he's keeping the car in shape now. Easy to lose it here. The tires will be extremely heated now heading into the next section of the track. Can't go too wide here or you will invalidate, but he's keeping it very nicely within the limits of the track as he heads into the double right-hander now, taking all the curb possible without invalidating. A bit slow though as he now heads onto that curb. It doesn't unsettle the car too much. 67% ERS as he heads into the slow and turning left-hander. Missing the apex there because that is what you need to do to get the best possible exit onto the right now as he heads into the penultimate corners. And we can see OP Tim in Sector 2 will be heading into Sector 3 now. He's going to be the first car to finish a lap, and so far his lap is going to be valid. We can see the drivers behind. Next up we will see an Alfa Romeo, which looks to be TTG Oliver, another new face, but this time it's not only to his team, it's to the competition, as OP Tim at 111.9 middle split as he heads flat out very easily. We saw Charles Leclerc doing it with one hand as well, taking all of these curb, and it's really crucial to get those few thousandths as now sticking it to the right to put in a 28.488 for OP Racing. Let's go on board with Oliver to see what he can do as he's now going to head into the final corner, hitting the wall as he exits that, and it's going to be a 130.2. Not ideal for him. Next up, I think it's going to be an Alpine. And we're going to go on board, though, with GL Thibaut, who's in the Haas, of course, new to the competition. Let's see what GL can do on their banker lap. We saw TF Legend putting in a 28.6. Currently, Tom still putting in the fastest lap of the competition, as now GL Thibaut is going to put in a 29.629 as he's above 1 second off the pace of OP Tim.
Yeah, you can see OP Tim there, currently on provisional pole, 2 tenths ahead of Talent Factory Legend. And from the man who wasn't actually very confident in his pace coming into this round of CTC, well, he's put it on provisional pole, and he is currently ahead of both of the Talent Factory drivers, which is exactly where OP want to be. And OP Nando Jr. Has been setting some extremely quick times in practice. I think I actually heard that he set a 27.9 in practice, so 5 tenths quicker than what OP Tim has currently set. But obviously at this initial stage of the session, it's all about getting that first lap time onto the board, making sure it's a decent lap time and one that will give you a delta that you can use to show how much you're improving per lap. So it's absolutely crucial that you get a banker lap time in, although you do still want to push quite hard to get a decent time onto the board. You can see OP Nando Jr. Coming through turn 13 there on the exit, really using the full width of the track, almost bottoming out the ground effect Red Bull car, but he is about to finish off his first lap time of the session flat out through this 130R. Brings us into the final chicane of turns 16 and 17, and that is one of the issues that I think we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers having in this race. You can really lose the back end into the braking zone, and even with that big mistake, he has put it into P2 with a 28.5, just 2/100th off of his teammate. So a great lap time from the outplayed racing driver, but you saw coming into the final chicane there, you can't really be too aggressive on the brakes because the braking stability is just not there. Very easy to lose the back end, as we just saw with Nando Jr. But with 11 minutes left to go in the session, most drivers have set a first lap time, with G League Ethan being one of the exceptions. You can see really struggling, getting all out of shape coming out of turn 9 there, bottoming out on that raised curb. And that is going to cost him quite a bit of lap time on this particular lap. And I think he's still going with this lap, so he'll just be looking to get that original delta for his next few laps. You can see TTG Predator has obviously made a mistake on his lap and decided to abandon Ecos Blacks and Iljidu still in the pit lane, with obviously ET8 Gustav on a qualifying ban. But you can see 14 out of the 19 drivers today. I think Ecos are missing one driver, only one of them showing up for them today, sadly. But 14 drivers so far have set lap times, with obviously the likes of Bean Sanchez and possibly even TTG Oliver not setting representative lap times just yet. But OP are currently in a provisional 1 and 2 in this session. Now, Matteo, after struggling for so long this season, do you think this could finally be the round for them to possibly claw back some points in this championship?
Yeah, I was gonna say, OP, finally, they are looking to be on top now, but we cannot speak too soon, as obviously we did hear from Lars that we could be seeing high 27s, and with 10 minutes to go. We really do not know if the laps are representative of their pace. Of course, very decent bankers from most drivers, all the way up to P6 in the 28s. But surprisingly enough, a lot of drivers failing to set lap times, failing to set bankers. We can see almost 6 drivers without banker lap times just yet, and it seems a lot of them invalidating. Sanchez struggling now, as we're going to go on board with him to see if he can set a nice lap time now. Bianari Sanchez is going to go into the first corner, braking around 50 meters, but not very hard because you need to carry all the speed you can around there. 5th gear, a bit high, but he's still not losing the car, as he's going to try set a lap time which can lead him to contend in the midfield for the rest of the race, as we can see now heading through the S's and taking that curb, but not losing the car whatsoever. We can see at the top drivers on their out laps and their laps. Sanchez only improving by a 10th so far, as it seems he's slowed down. So instead of watching Sanchez, let's head to the poleman himself, OP Tim, to see if he can improve on his current lap time. OP Nando Jr., of course, on an outlap in front. We could see some teamwork here, as Nando is going to try perhaps pull along Tim. Of course, this is legal in CTC. But now, as the drivers head on their laps, I think more it is crucial to talk about Season 2 of this championship, because it looks to be very promising. We're going to see a drivers' championship, of course. We're going to have 2 main drivers for every team and 3 reserves. It's going to be the same stages format, but it's going to be extremely interesting to see how the teams can cope. Of course, we're going to have 2 divisions with already 25 or 27 teams signing up so far. It's going to be a very interesting qualifying session, and of course the prize pool increasing and entry fees spicing things up next season. So there is all to wait for, but for now OP Tim seems to be improving. Let's see if he can do anything into the final sector of the track. The right-hander not taking as much curb as he did before. Could it be that he's going to keep going? So he's taking an alternative line, and he's not improving whatsoever. 1/10 of his lap time. Nando starting a lap, Ruddy on a lap. Legend is going to be the next to cross the line. He has a slipstream though from an Alpha Tauri. Ooh, very close from them two, but it seems no collisions, and Legend heading into the final corner, really taking all that curb, absorbing it with his Scarlet Red Ferrari to put his Ferrari on pole position with a 28.312, and that's more like Talent Factory, as they now lead the way by over 1/10 of a second. Ruddy is heading into the flat out section, as we're going to see if he can match his teammate. Of course, Nando also on a lap, as Ruddy seems to be improving by 1/10, and that's in sector 2. Let's see in the final chicane, can he do anything? Once again, taking all of the curb, really absorbing it as he heads into the final corner. What's it going to be for him? It's going to be a 28.462, and once again, Talent Factory 1-2 now as they regain their dominance, but it is close, and maybe do you think more that OP could take this one back in the final 6 minutes of qualifying?
Yeah, obviously OP Tim there, we saw with his lap time, a little bit of a scruffy one, a couple of mistakes here and there. A notable one was obviously when he went a bit wide there at turn 13, pretty much cutting the track, but managing to keep his lap time valid, which didn't matter too much in the end. He just gets beaten by his teammate Nando Jr., going only 7/1000ths quicker than his teammate. So the two OP guys very close together, but a 28.3 from Legend there, really showing the field how it's done. The only man to get into the 1 minute 28.3 so far. So a quick lap time there from the Talent Factory driver, and pretty much what we've come to expect from Talent Factory. So he's put his Ferrari in a decent position. But obviously, OP Tim didn't improve on his original lap time. OP Nando Jr. didn't improve by much, only 2/100ths of an improvement. So maybe the OP driver's just struggling with the track evolution, possibly not used to the grip levels that they currently have, because they're struggling to improve upon those banker lap times, whereas the two Talent Factory drivers were able to find a decent bit of improvement, especially Talent Factory Legend, currently sitting on provisional pole position with a 28.3. But yeah, I think OP, they definitely have a chance here, especially since I've heard a lot of good things about what OP Nando has been doing in practice. But whatever OP Nando can do, I'm sure Talent Factory Legend and Rudy will be pushing him all the way until the very death of the session, which is coming up on us quite soon. Only about 4.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. You can see most drivers currently in the pit lane as it stands, and getting some fresh soft compound of tyres, getting their cars refueled, recharging their batteries, and getting ready to set those final and most crucial lap times of the session. Obviously, your final lap time is your most crucial when the track evolution is at its best. It's going to be where you are improving the most. So these drivers need to make sure that they are well composed for their final lap times. But you can see Ace are on a little bit of a different running plan. I think Hirio, this is his debut appearance in CTC, and he's currently P10 and only a couple of 100ths off of his teammate. You can see all of the teammates are quite close together. Obviously, you have the two Talent Factory drivers at the top, with OP following them closely in P3 and 4. The two 1 esports drivers in P6 and 7. Ace own the 5th row of the grid in P9 and 10. So the teammates seem to be matching each other in this round of qualifying so far, but obviously that is subject to change with 3 minutes left to go. And you can see almost every single driver in the pit lane, apart from Bina Larry, Dennis, and obviously Ace Hero, who we're currently riding on board with for what I think might be his final lap time of the session. Actually, I don't think he's going to have enough time to get his Alpine back to the pits, get a new set of soft tyres, and set another lap time. So this is going to be his final lap, and you can see snap of oversteer there on the exit of turn 14. That is going to cost him a little bit of lap time in what is going to be his most crucial lap. And you can see he's actually 6/100th down on his time. So he's going to slow his car down, try to recharge some battery, try to cool the tires, and go for another lap time, because obviously he wasn't very happy with that previous one. Being Dennis also starting a lap time now. But there's not long left to go in this session. Talent Factory Legend and Rudy both surprisingly still in the pit lane. Do you think they're still going to have enough time to actually get round this circuit and set another lap time?
Sure, I think if they cut corners, they can make it easily, but of course that could cost them. But they are coming out now, and I think 2 minutes is pretty safe, of course. It will only take them at max 30 seconds more to complete a lap. But yeah, Hirio on a surprising strategy as he's now heading onto his final lap, or I mean he can do another one, but of course depends on how much fuel he has. But maybe it is to avoid the traffic, because we have 19 other drivers heading out on laps, and you don't really need to be that imaginative to imagine how that's going to turn out. It's going to be traffic paradise, so hopefully the drivers do not get in each other's way, especially in that twisty section, because if you do get distracted there, it could be game over. So now it's all eyes on OP to see if they can take back the P1 and P2 they had in the earlier stages. Nando is heading through the start of the second sector, and Tim is going to be starting his lap. So let's go on board with the one and only OP Tim, of course, ex-Rosso driver, but unfortunately they closed down. And Tim heading into the first corner, really need to really needs to push it to the limit because he's put in a very nice lap already. But now let's see what he can do. He's not too well prepared, so he's going to have to push it and see what happens. We can already see just turning in aggressively and the car letting itself do its thing, as now he's going to go through the left-hander, try not to go too wide through there. GL Ethan retiring, P14 on his debut is going to be the max he can get as he heads into the double right-hander. He's up on his lap time, but only by 4,000ths of a second. But he takes that right-hander very nicely. We can see GL Ethan's remains of his car is right there. The slow left-hander takes the apex very nicely, shifting up to 4th and then 5th. Pedal to the metal as soon as possible now, as Tim is going to head into these double left-hander once again, quicker than the double right-hander though, as you can see, going very wide there, not invalidating, but he certainly had to slow down a lot, and I don't think this lap can be good enough for pole. We'll have to wait and see. He's going to have to put in an absolutely fantastic final sector if he has any chances of going for pole. 1/10 up on his lap time though. This could be pole position for Tim, but of course Legend and Ruddy both on lap times, but Tim is going to head through the final 2 corners, pushing it to the max as he heads down into the final flat out corner. It's going to be a 28.461. P3 is all he can do. Axelinho puts it on P2, and TF Ruddy's pushed down to P4, but he's improving. Legend also improving. Nando Jr. is in the second sector, and it is eyes on absolutely everyone. It seems Legend's up by 1/10, Ruddy up by 1/10.5. Nando, he's also heading through the double left-hander now, but it is going to be CF Ruddy who's going to cross the finish line first. A double Alpine right in front of him, but that's not too distracting as he heads into the final corner flat out. Let's see what the Ferrari can put itself into. It's going to be a 28.238. Legend right behind, going to improve on him at 28.186. Nando, he needs to improve, but he's not improving. He's not going to be able to top Talent Factory, and once again it is Talent Factory P1 and P2. Manages to put a P3, but that's not good enough, as we can see Axelinho sandwiched between the 2 OP drivers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of your qualifying session here at Suzuka.
Yeah, quite an exciting one that was. Talent Factory getting another front row lockout this season. Talent Factory Legend is the man on pole position though. A good lap time from him at 28.1 from the Talent Factory driver, with Talent Factory really right behind him on a 28.2. You can see OP Nando Jr. 28.3, so he is quite close behind, but not setting those lap times he was able to do in practice, so maybe just cracking slightly under the pressure. NLR actually, such a great lap time after being on what I think was a 23.6, finds 0.3 of improvement. He moved himself up into P4, and OP Tim, I should say, rounds out the top 5 with a 28.4, and the closest time to the top 5 was a 28.7 set by one Elliott. So yeah, the top 5 sending extremely fast lap times there, especially Talent Factory Legend. But as we come to the race circuit on race day, it looks like it will be raining for this Grand Prix. Taking a look at just the pit lane, I think it might be intermediate conditions rather than the full wet conditions. But this could really throw a spanner in the works for a lot of drivers in this grid. I'm sure plenty of them practicing in the dry conditions. They are one of the easier conditions compared to the wet and the intermediates. So a lot of drivers are obviously quite used to them. And these wet conditions could pose a lot of problems for these drivers. Obviously, your traction, your grip, your braking points, how much speed you can take through the turns, your racing lines, it's all going to be completely different now in these changeable conditions. So maybe some drivers who qualified quite high up could see themselves fall down the order, but only time will tell. These wet conditions are definitely going to make it a lot more difficult for a lot of these drivers though. As we're getting ready to start the session, these drivers have their strategies ready, making the final adjustments to their setups, and let's see what Talent Factory can do from the front row of the grid. We have 5 red lights, they're gone. We're away. What kind of start is it for our pole man of Talent Factory Legend? It looks like a decent one up against his teammate, but it looks like they will be going side by side into turn 1. And you can see Talent Factory Rudy not committing to that move, but he's now under pressure from OP Nando Jr. behind with the outside line, which is going to change to the inside for turn 2. But he's Talent Factory Rudy managing to squeeze him out there. He maintains P3 for now, with OP moving up to P3 and 4, and NLR Axelino losing a position off of that race start, and he's going to have to try and push hard now to keep up with the top 4. You can see a good start for them, but maybe not so good, because Robin coming out of turn 7 there, snap of oversteer on the exit. He is now out of this Grand Prix, and that is going to bring out the virtual safety car in this session. So a bit of a commentator's curse there coming into play. One having their first retirement of the Grand Prix, and it's a shame to see, because they had such a great qualifying session, qualified P6 and P7 and maintained that position off those positions off of the race start, but sadly ends in tears for the new One Esports driver. I think this was his first race for One, but yeah, obviously it hasn't ended too well for him there, and is now out of this Grand Prix. And if we take a look at the position changes, it's been a good start for some. You can see Ace Hero having the best start out of anyone in the grid. He has gained 5 positions after starting P12 in this Grand Prix. DG Ruffy also having a good start after starting P13. He has gotten his Williams up into P9, but you can see quite wide there at 130R. So obviously the amount of speed you can take into these turns quite different in these wet conditions, but DG Ruffy still keeping it on track, and is going to be putting the pressure under the ET8 driver, and looks like he's doing it straight away, looking to the inside on this pitch straight. He has the inside line for this turn 1, and Il Janu not going to fight back around the outside of turn 1. Very difficult to hold your line around the outside at that particular turn, so the NLR driver is able to get himself up into the top 8. He's had a great start for himself and his team, and he'll be looking to try to catch up with his teammate and help him out and score some more championship points for his team. But after that race start, Talent Factory Legend, Talent Factory Rudy and OP Nando Jr. all holding their original starting position, so it's been a good start for Talent Factory.
Yeah, it certainly has. Of course, the two teams showing their consistency once again. They're P1, P2, P3, and P4. But one snap of oversteer is all it takes, as we saw with one Robin. Just one little moment in these 27 laps, and you're out of contention. So it's going to be very interesting. We can see Ruddy also getting a big snap of oversteer. Of course, the wet conditions, very hard, but they'll be thankful that it's only the inters. But it seems no one's really practiced, because they're all struggling a lot, it seems, on the throttles. We can see Legend, just look at how much he's struggling. He's going to activate the ERS down the straight, because he's been very, very uncomfortable. As now it seems everyone's in the same boat though, because no overtakes taking place just yet, and Legend on the absolute limits, just getting familiar with the braking points and where he can turn in, as he's going to set the pace for the third lap of the race. One Elliott up into P6. Would have been a very good race for One if Robin didn't get that snap oversteer, which cost him greatly. And we can see Axelino, he's 1 second behind Tim, so it seems Talent Factory and OP pulling away once again, but I think all the drivers are just getting familiar with the conditions. They're not looking to overtake. Never mind, DG Ruffy down the inside of Ace Hero, and he's going to put himself up into P7, trying to catch back up to Axelino. He's up into P5, and now one Elliott sandwich between the two NLR cars. Further ahead, Tim getting close to Nando, but of course, as you can believe, very tricky through that first sector, especially turning in rapidly between all the corners. He's 3/10 up on his first sector though. We can see Il Genu also overtaking Ace Hero, so it seems maybe he has wing damage, or he is really struggling in these inters conditions, as Il Genu is now up into P8, and the field separating a bit, as DG Ruffy going very wide and everyone taking that left-hander extremely slowly. I think as we're going to get deeper into the race, we'll see more action when the drivers are more comfortable in the conditions. TF Ruddy and TF Legend just following each other. It seems Legend has gotten to grips better, as he's almost He is now out of what would be DRS in the dry, and Lando also out of the DRS, so the drivers separating a lot, it seems, as we're not going to be looking at any overtakes, not at the front end. Seems Tim is the closest driver. Dennis further back could be looking to go for a move, as let's go on board with the driver in the midfield. We can see he has Ace Grosjean on his back now, as we can see TF Legend and TF Ruddy really setting the pace for the others, as Bianari Dennis heading into lap 4. He'll be looking to get the move done on the Alpine. Will it be down the inside or around the outside? Does he get the better exit? It seems not, as he's going to have to stick behind, and really without the DRS and with the really harsh conditions more, do you think we're going to see much overtakes this race, or will it be a standard Talent Factory 1-2?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be tricky for these drivers. Obviously, the wet conditions, no DRS, as it's a bit too dangerous in the wet conditions. So it's going to be a lot harder to overtake on in a straight line, at least. But I'm sure these drivers will find a way. Obviously, in wet conditions, you tend to brake a lot more coming into the turns because you just can't carry as much speed. You can see Bianari Dennis, as we're riding on board with him, really struggling there, going off of the track, going through turn 8 there and having plenty of snaps of oversteer. But he's currently P13. He's kept it on track. But yeah, like I was saying, it's going to be difficult to overtake, but with that extra ERS boost, since you're braking so much in the wet conditions, that should hopefully allow the drivers to possibly make an overtake or two. And well, you can see G-League Ethan is defending from ET8 Gustav into the double left of Spoon, and GL Ethan just going off of the track there, wasn't able to keep it on that outside line, and he loses that P14 position, drops his ass down into P15, and G-League in their first Grand Prix so far in P10 and P15. Not the worst debut performance so far, and with Debo on the back of Hero and Janu, he could score some decent points for his team, but he's going to have to push quite hard to challenge with the likes of Hero and Janu. Obviously, Janu was the first man to score a podium for ET8, so he's got that title to his name, and a very competitive driver in this championship. You can see a lot of the battles are happening towards the midfield rather than the front end. You can see Talent Factory Legend has broken out a 1.3 second lead over Rudy, who tends to struggle just that little bit in these wet conditions. He's still able to keep up a great pace, as he always is, but just lacks that tenth or two to you know, catch up with Talent Factory Legend and be able to stick the pace with his teammate, which is allowing OP Nando Jr. into that 1 second range. But you can see Bianari Dennis has a massive snap of oversteer, and that has actually caused a collision between himself and Grosjean. Grosjean losing a piece of his front wing and then getting overtaken by both G-League Ethan and Gustav, who are now going side by side through the turn 11 hairpin there. But Ethan now is back up ahead of Gustav, but this time he finds himself in P13 after overtaking the Alpine driver. Very unfortunate incident there for Grosjean, and not much he really could have done to avoid that. Obviously just a mistake there from Dennis, who is really struggling in these wet conditions. It's very tricky to keep it on track in dry conditions, and when you throw on these intermediate compounded tires, it makes it even more difficult. So you can see why the drivers are struggling so much. But yeah, the field up towards the front and the top end of the midfield, it's really starting to separate quite a bit now, and Legend is continuing to extend his lead. Then there's quite a big gap between the top 7 and P8. So yeah, I think these drivers, there's obviously, this is lap 6 of 27, so they're going to have a lot of time to get used to these conditions. But I think for this opening stint, obviously on the intermediate compound tires, even though they are quite a durable tire, you still have to make one stop in these conditions, which we'll most likely see at the halfway stage of this Grand Prix. But you can see, as we're riding on board there with G-League Ethan, he actually has a massive snap of oversteer on the exit of turn 7, falls from P13 to now P17, as Oliver is able to make a move around the outside at turn 7 there. A great move from the TTG driver to move himself up into P16. But G-League Ethan won't be happy with that mistake at all, as he is now pretty much at the very back of the grid with only Ecos Blacks behind him now, who is also really struggling in these conditions. You can see 6 seconds off of the rest of the grid. But yeah, like I was saying before, I think in these early stages of the Grand Prix, the drivers will be getting used to these conditions. But I think once the new sets of intermediates start to come on, I think that is when we're going to start to see a lot of overtakes. But you can see the skies are actually starting to clear up a little bit, and the rain doesn't seem to be as heavy. So possibility of dry conditions. And well, if there were dry conditions, how do you think that would affect this Grand Prix?
I think, well, the gaps they have now will certainly decrease, and I think they will be, of course, very thankful, and we could see some overtakes. But yeah, I think maybe it seems that Chen getting more comfortable on the throttle, so we could be seeing a dry end to the race, as that'll be extremely interesting now, because the drivers are showing what they can do in the inters. And now back to the dries, and we can see OP closing down the gap to Talent Factory. Well, they're closing down the gap to Ruddy. Lechen is 2 seconds clear of his teammate now, but it seems, as you said, Mo, I do not see any rain dropping onto the track, and now we just wait for the evaporation to take place on the circuit, and then it could be slicks in by lap 10, by lap 12, as we can see Legend going very wide on the absolute limit. Il Genu is out of the session, and once again ET8 getting so unlucky, and I think that's going to prove a full safety car. Ecos, one driver, and he's the last of the current runners in the Aston Martin, is Ecos Blacks. And now I think it's too early to be boxing, so the drivers will be staying out on the track. And yeah, indeed, Legend staying out, and so is everybody behind. Axelinho is going to be going into the boxes. This could be a controversial call for both NLR drivers. Will we see the first set of slicks on the track? Ace Hero following in his footsteps, so is Thibaut Santuit and Dennis as well. It seems Axelinho has started a train onto the slick compounded tyre, and now this could change absolutely everything. We could see drivers we don't normally see finishing in the top positions now, because everybody boxing from P7 down onto the slicks, and they're all going onto the hard compound tyre until the end of the race. And if this is the right decision, then the top 6 will be regretting very, very heavily, because this is a free big pit stop for everybody else. And now it's all about seeing how quick the track's going to dry up, and this could be an NLR finishing very, very high up, racking up a lot of points. And talking about NLR racking up points, I do not think they're too far off of OP in the standings. And indeed, there's a 9 points difference between NLR and OP. So we've been talking about the whole OP and TF battle, but NLR slowly but surely sneaking up, and we could see Axelinho and Ruffy proving everybody wrong now. Or do you think that the Inters runners are going to get the best of the dry, or do you think that everybody on the slicks could prove to be superior?
Sorry, I had my microphone muted there for a second. But what I was saying there was, yeah, I think it's still very wet conditions. NLR Axelinho, he saw the dry line emerging. He saw that the rain has completely stopped, but he is struggling for grip through these turns. He's struggling on the traction, and he's even struggling to catch up to the safety car queue. And you can visibly see it. So I do not think it is time for the slick compounded tyres, and I do not think it will be time for the slicks by the time the safety car comes into the pit lane. I think Talent Factory and Outplayed Racing have played it safe. And I think so far, at least, by looking at these conditions, I think Talent Factory and OP have played it right. And, well, another man who's played it safe, he stayed out on the intermediate compound of tyres, is ET8 Gustav. He has stayed out and is currently P5 in this Grand Prix. And if these conditions don't dry up soon, he could be in a great position to score some good points for his ET8 team, obviously caused by his teammate crashing out from the session. So a bittersweet moment there for ET8, but currently in quite a good position and could be looking to score some mega points. I think there was a couple more drivers who came into the pit lane there for some slick compound of tyres. You can see G League Ethan coming out of the pit lane. One Elliott also boxed for the medium compound of tyres. Although there are some drivers you can see, being Larry Dennis and TTG Predator, who just came in for a fresh set of inters. But that's Ace Hero on the hard compounded tyres under safety car conditions, still struggling under traction. He has lost his front wing, and I think that just goes to show it is not time for the slick compounded tyres, and anyone who has stayed out on the intermediates is in a great position in this Grand Prix. The track is just simply not drying quick enough for the slick tyres to really dig into the circuit. They are just sliding all over with this greasy, wet circuit. So, yeah, I think the top 5 have made a good strategic call there. Being Larry Dennis, TTG Predator, and even Ecos Blacks could score some decent points for their teams today if they can keep it consistent and on the track. But the safety car will be staying out for one more lap, so there is still one more chance that the track dries in time. But Matteo, it is not looking likely. And with these hard runners, you even saw with Ace Hero under safety car conditions still struggling under traction. I don't think it's looking good for the slick runners at all.
I think that it's a close one, but I think at the end of the day, the slick runners could be looking okay. They just need to be extremely careful and really control their throttle inputs. But I don't think, because obviously the track is drying up, so the inters runners are going to have to box, and the hards, they're not using any tire life under the safety car, and especially when the track is greasy and wet, as you said. So I think that unless they spin out, the inters runners won't be able to gain 25 seconds or 20, which is how long it takes to box normally. So I think it's a very close one. Of course, the safety car being out as long as possible will help all the slick runners, so they'll just be hoping for that. Of course, Hirio is the cause for that. He is in the Alpine, very far behind. Luckily, he didn't crash. No, he did crash. Luckily, he didn't lose his tyres, which would have caused him to DNF. But now we can see Axelino warming up his tyres, or at least attempting to, on the very, very wet circuit. ET8 Gustav, he's the last of the inters runners, but now could we see OP going for a move on Talent Factory, because the tyres will be better than they were a few laps ago when they were racing. The safety car, no notification for us just yet, but that is because we are not too close, as Legend really risking it here, as he's extremely close to the red Mercedes, and we're just waiting for the FIA to let us know what is going to go, if the safety car is going to go, or if it stays in another lap. We have no message, so there we go. Safety car will be in this lap, and that means the inters runners will have to take all the opportunities they can to pull away Ecos Blacks. He's going to have to get all of these, well, no, not all of these. He's going to have to get the two NLR drivers out of his path, as now Legend. Slow restart for him. Not looking to accelerate anytime soon. There he goes with the German helmet, and Legend will be leading the way as Ruddy is in P2, Nando P3, and Tim up into P4. Almost immediately, Ecos Blacks clearing out the two NLR drivers. As we can see towards the bottom, the Slicks runners really struggling. And now NLR Axelinho, he's going to have to defend from BNLRA Dennis, who is in the Mercedes and already clearing out these drivers. This could cause a few collisions up front where it's all inters, it's all green tires, no moves being made. However, they're very much close, and this could call for a very entertaining middle part of the race. But we can see the hard runners really struggling. As you said, more, I think you had the right to that call, and now the drivers of TFOP and also ET8 Gustav, who hasn't been talked about much this race. He's in a very nice position. He's P5, and this could be very solid points for him. As we can see, CTC Predator now is the last Inters run, and the top 8 all on the Inters, the top 9 now, as Axelinho is passed. But of course, the gap to Axelinho isn't even above 10 seconds from him to Legend. So when Legend boxes, then Axelinho will be the man in P1. But it seems the track isn't drying fast, as the Inters runners are now going at full speed ahead. But Talent Factory Ruddy getting a 3-second time penalty. That is completely unideal for him, and that puts him out the question for the lead. But Legend boxing, could that be a controversial call? I think it could be, as he's going to head onto the Slicks. And if the Slicks are indeed faster, this is great for NLR, who are going to be finally benefiting from that call. Ruddy on the 3-second penalty, and suddenly the gap has been created for OP Nando and OP Tim to slide right through, as we can see Nando now trailing from Ruddy. 7 tenths is the gap as they head through this section, and big gap between P4 and P5. It's 5 seconds to be exact, as we can see TTG Predator and Ecos Blacks battling there, and Predator makes his way through. So now the track completely dry, and it seems Sanchowitz had a broken wing, as Legend is out on the mediums, and this is completely dry more. Unless I am blind, I think that it is cleared up almost instantly, and everybody will be boxing. So I think the Slicks runners will be getting the best of the Inters, as we can see. Let's put the gap to the leader. Axelinho is currently 12 seconds away from Ruddy, so he's going to be taking provisional P1 of this race, and it is going to be a provisional P1 and P2 for NLR.
Yeah, the hards obviously were not working at all under the safety car conditions, but the risky strategy has worked out for them, because the track was able to dry up. The hard runners were able to keep it on track. Well, most of them, at least the two NLR drivers were. They were able to keep it on track, and that now means that they will be taking, like you said, P1 and P2. DRS is enabled, and with the track bone dry, it is time for the slick compounds of tyres, and everybody coming into the pit lane. So we thought Talent Factory and OP were on the right strategy. Does not look like the case anymore. They definitely were on the right tyre for the conditions at the time, but the track has dried out quick enough once we got back to green flag running, and that has now put NLR in P1 and P2. Great to see them. G League are currently both in the points paying positions, one of which in P4 and one Elliott in P3, so it's a completely mixed up order. But NLR, who are currently battling OP for second place in this championship, have a big advantage. P1 and P2, and they are on the hard compounded tire relative to both the Talent Factory drivers, who chose the mediums. OP Nando chose the mediums, and OP Tim going to the hard compound of tires. So the mediums are going to drop off towards the end of the Grand Prix, so Legend and Rudy need to make the most of them while they have them, and you can see that is exactly what they're doing, making moves as quickly as possible. Talent Factory Rudy, though, that 3-second time penalty is going to be absolutely crucial towards the end of this Grand Prix, and I think it's definitely going to lose him quite a few positions, especially to the likes of OP Nando Jr. But Talent Factory played the strategy perfectly after the position they found themselves in. Talent Factory Legend boxing 1 lap before Rudy so that they did not have to double stack, unlike OP. We now have OP Nando Jr. right behind Talent Factory Rudy, but OP Tim is 7 seconds off of this battle. So I think Talent Factory played their cards really well there. You can see Rudy is now trying to make a move on Ethan coming into turn 1. Ethan attempts to hold it around the outside and almost does a very brave defense there from the Haas driver, but actually having to let Nando Jr. through there. I'm not too sure why that was. It looked like he actually slowed down for him. But letting the Red Bull driver through and allowing those two to battle it out on track. But Ethan still in a points-paying position so far, and ETA Gustav, after being caught out on what looked like the right strategy initially, but turned out to be the wrong one, is still battling for a points-paying position, currently 8/10 off of G-League Ethan. Legend is in P6, and he is trying to catch up to the top 5. 3.4 seconds separates himself and a top 5 position. TG Oliver gets himself a 3-second time penalty. Thankfully, that won't be affecting him too much as he's currently down in P16. But there are going to be a lot of battles now and a lot of drivers trying to regain the positions that they have lost because of their strategies. And you can see one Elliott is actually trying to put pressure under the NLR driver of DG Ruffy. He's had the same issue that Nando had in qualifying, loses the rear end under the braking and has to back out of that move. And he maintains P3 for now, with Devo trying to catch up to the top 3 and possibly battle it out for the podium in G-League's first race in CTC, although he is still 2 seconds off of this battle. Talent Factory Rudy now is trying to make the move on Ace Grosjean and does so successfully. OP Nando caught in an awkward position, has the dirty air for turn 1 and is going to have the dirty air for this S section. He cannot find a way past the Alpine driver just yet, and this is actually going to allow Talent Factory Rudy to pull away a little bit, but you can see the grip difference between the Red Bull and the Alpine, who tries to hold it around the outside turn 7. That was never going to work out. Grosjean conceding a position. Nando is in P8, but now 1.4 seconds off of the Talent Factory driver of Rudy. He does have a 3-second time penalty though, so as of right now, he will finish ahead of Rudy. But he wants to catch up. He wants that DRS so we can continue to battle with the likes of Talent Factory Legend. But it's still absolutely amazing to see NLR back 1 and 2. Last time we saw this was all the way back in round 1, if you can remember that far back in Bahrain, where they finished P1 and P3, which initially started their championship campaign, which sadly came to a halt. But right now, looking to get their second race win of the season and possibly their first one too. They'd be the second team to ever do it after Talent Factory, and what an achievement it would be. But not only do they have the threat of Talent Factory Legend and Rudy behind, they also have one Elliott keeping them honest for the next 10 laps. It is now lap 16 of 27, so not long left to go in this race. But you can see ETA Gustav and Grosjean going side by side. Grosjean got up onto the curb on the exit and spun his car around. He falls down to P13 just behind OP Tim, who is currently outside of the points-paying positions and actually finds himself stuck behind the CTG driver of Predator. So OP not having a good day so far. They find themselves P8 and P12. Meanwhile, Talent Factory are recovering quite nicely. Talent Factory Legend is only a second off of the back of G-League Devo. It looks like Being the Reed Dennis is that. Yes, Being the Reed Dennis has made a mistake on the exit of turn 7, now being overtaken by the likes of Ecos Blacks and TTG Oliver, just getting slightly stuck behind. But Being Reed Dennis goes off of the track there, allows Oliver to go through coming into turn 9. Oliver finds himself into a P15 position. But if we look at the gaps now, OP Nando trying his best to catch up to the likes of the two Talent Factory drivers. But I think we're actually going to see another overtake here. So a lot of overtakes happening in this middle part of the race. Obviously, these drivers who were on the intermediates trying to recover while they have these slick compounded tires Talent Factory Legend using the ERS to find a way past the Haas driver of Thebo. He moved himself up into P5 and is now going to be chasing the back of Ace Hero. But it's gonna be quite close. Legend 4 seconds off of the battle of the top 3, but his mediums are gonna start to die off soon, around lap 10, if I had to guess. So do you think Legend is still gonna have the pace, or not lap 10 I should say, when they're 10 laps old? So that would be in 5 laps time, so that's around lap 22. But do you think Talent Factory Legend will still have the pace if he's able to catch up to the top 3 to actually overtake them and possibly take the lead of this Grand Prix?
Nope. I think that NLR are going to defend for their lives, as we can see doing already with Elliott. And this is something completely unfamiliar to us. Of course, NLR 1-2 is shocking, but Elliott in P3 and Ace Hiro in P4. Hello, the French. P3 and P4, not bad. And we can see, though, Legend is very close to Hirio, but if Hirio defends his fellow Frenchman like a lion, then I think he can hold him back long enough for Elliott to take that P3, and maybe he'll even look to overtake Ruffy, which he's tried doing so far but proved unsuccessful. Legend being hit from the back by Ace Hirio, but making the move into that chicane. Very dodgy there, but it seems he was desperate and he was very insistent. But now look at how many points OP are going to lose to NLR. I didn't even see them on the timing boards, and OP Tim's down in P12 and OP Nando is in P8. NLR with a huge comeback now, and also their TF are going to be losing out to them as well, as Legends in P4 and Ruddy has a time penalty down in P7. So this is a completely different grid to what we're normally seeing, as Axelinho and Ruffy are still going strong, pulling each other within the DRS. And of course NLR looking very strong here, as Legend, he now has 3 seconds to catch back up to the top 3. Ace Hero, I don't think he's going to be able to make the move back on Legend, because he is an absolute powerhouse and he is very insistent on that move, but maybe he can stay in the DRS. And now if we look further back, Nando, he's down in P8 and he's going to be looking to get the move done on Ruddy. So we see the championship battle taking place down in P8 and P7 between the two drivers, but of course Ruddy has that 3-second time penalty attached to his name. And further back it is pretty calm. Of course OP always on the attack now, as Tim looks to get closer to the points paying positions up in P12, and we can see Ruddy closing in on Tebow now. And let's see if he can make the move stick soon. He's currently 3/10 off, and I think he's going to just try secure the time, as of course he has 3 seconds, but he's sent it down the inside and he takes a pretty optimal line as well. So it's a win-win for Ruddy, as he's now up into P6, but of course on penalties he will be moved all the way down to P8, as we can see his next target will be Ace Hero, as TF are pulling it back now. OP can't say the same for them, although Nando is still closing in on Tebow, as NLR looking to protect themselves, just like SBS 1-2 in their competition, as OP Nando now 2/10 back from GL Tebow.
Yeah, and you can see Nando is absolutely sending it there on Thebo into turn 11. A massive dive from the OP driver, with TTG Predator actually spinning there, falling down to what is now P13. But I was just going to touch upon it before Predator had that spin. OP Tim had been stuck behind the TTG Predator driver for quite a few laps. I think it was 6 laps that we stuck behind him. So Tim is really, really struggling to readjust himself to slick conditions, and he needs to pick it up quicker, because at this rate it doesn't even look like that he will be scoring any championship points. Maybe he can score 1 point if he's able to catch up and overtake Ethan, but OP Tim is having a very, very bad day, and he's going to continue to push on, hopefully regain some points. But like you said with Legend, you didn't think he was going to be able to keep up the pace and catch up to the top 2, who are obviously on the hard tyres, which are going to start to be quicker than the mediums. And I think you might be right. Talent Factory Legend in the past 2 or 3 laps has only gained about a second to to the top three. So he will most likely be able to catch up to the top three, but it's a question of whether or not he can actually overtake any of the drivers in the top three. That is a spin for Ace Grosjean, who falls down to P13 in this Grand Prix. He'll not be happy with himself after that mistake, and TGG Predator is able to take that position, move himself up into P12. G League, it's a topic to touch on. In their debut Grand Prix in CTC, they find themselves in a double points finish. Currently P8 and P10 in this Grand Prix, with Devo trying his best to keep up with the likes of Nando Jr. Almost in the DRS, but obviously on older and harder compounded tyres, it's quite difficult to do so. So he's put up a valiant effort, but I think he's going to start to lose a little bit more time to the OP driver now. Talent Factory Rudy, with fresher tyres than Ace Hero, has actually lost the DRS to the Alpine driver ahead, if I'm not mistaken. So he's really struggling for ERS and seems to be struggling for pace as well. So not only are OP struggling, but so are Talent Factory. And Talent Factory Legend isn't able to find himself in the DRS of the top three just yet. Snap of oversteer there on the exit turn one, trying to keep his Ferrari under control, but struggling to do so. He's almost got the DRS now. You can see coming through turn 6 and now 7. He is within the 9/10 gap that he needs to be, so he might have the benefit of DRS soon enough. But the two NLR drivers currently on about just over 50% ERS each. Meanwhile, Legend has used absolutely everything to try and catch up to the top three and is left with pretty much no ERS, and it leaves him with very little options. He needs to make the overtakes as soon as possible because his tyres are going to start to drop off, but he also needs to save up some ERS for the next few laps so that he can actually make the move. So I think you're definitely right. I don't know if Talent Factory Legend has got it in him to actually win this Grand Prix or even get onto the podium, because Elliott is on 3-lap older tyres, but he has got more ERS, and he has a DRS of Ruffy ahead of him. So Elliott will be defending for his life to try and defend this P3 position and possibly get One Esports their first podium in CTC. Meanwhile, Ace Hero gets a 3-second time penalty and is now under pressure from the Talent Factory driver of Rudy, who's looking for a move to the inside, with Nando looking to the outside. Coming into turn 1, he gets squeezed off of the circuit, and Hero moves back up into P5. A great switchback defense there from the Alpine driver. Nando tried the outside line, with Rudy trying a very tight inside line. Did not work out for either of them, and that is a great defense there from Hero. He maintains P5 in this Grand Prix, and Rudy really struggling to find a way past. His 3-second time penalty at this stage of the Grand Prix would drop him down to P8. So Talent Factory currently P4 and a net P8, so they are not doing too well for themselves at this stage of the race. Ace Hero also just got a 3-second time penalty. That will drop him down quite a few positions, but it looks like the two heavy hitters in this championship of Talent Factory and OP are really struggling, and it looks like NLR and One are going to try and take advantage of this.
Yeah, it certainly does, and this is a change of plan for Talent Factory, thinking they could just brush right through Ace Hero, but he is holding up like an absolute lion, is the Alpine, not letting Ruddy through, both on 3 seconds, so this is for track position, as now Ruddy not trying anything into the final chicane because he doesn't want to risk his race. As we can see further up though, Legend passes Elliott, because Elliott has headed into the boxes, as Ruddy on the inside of Hero though. The Ferrari is going to send it down the inside into the first corner. Hero though, we saw, he's got a huge moment of oversteer there, does the Alpine. That lets Nando right through as well, and now Nando is going to try get through Ruddy's to see if he can overtake the other Talent Factory driver of Legend, who is closing down on NLR, and he's doing so rapidly. The gap was 3 seconds when he overtook I think it was Ruddy, and now it is down to 9-10. So it is safe to say that he has the pace. But we cannot say anything yet about how NLR are going to defend this. A 1-2 looks better than a 1-3, that's for sure. And I know the drivers have that in mind as they head into the final few corners of lap 23. And it seems not so bad a result for OP. Points not great, but at least they are getting some, as OP Tim is now looking to head himself up into P9 to knock GL Ethan out of the points. And OP Nando still in the DRS of TF Ruddy, but he is only 7/10. He's 7/10 back. And Legend, he's out of the DRS of Ruffy, as now it seems Ruffy using all of his ERS to try save himself from the attack of the Dutchman. But Legend Rosenberg is going to try everything to try get past in these final 3 laps. Ruddy, he's almost 3 seconds behind, so I don't think he's going to get past his teammate, as Nando is going to be looking to get past him. So a lot of scrabbling with the grid could be seen in the final laps. And further back, Tim and Ethan still going at it. And then with the final few positions, a big batch of time penalties there, as we can see Axelino locking up a bit into the left-hander, as Ruddy follows intently, as he does not want to get overtaken by Nando. And would you look at that, OP Tim, that's a 3-second time penalty, and P10 is going to be the max he can do for himself this race, because he's got himself 3 seconds, and the top team seeming to be lacking this week. OP Tim 3 seconds, OP Nando, he's in P5, Talent Factory Ruddy is 3 seconds of penalties, so not the usual consistency we're used to seeing from these drivers. And now NLR, could they be doing a team radio call to let Ruffy through, because it seems he has faster pace than Axelino, but nevertheless they'll be focusing on what's behind them. It's Legend, but he is almost 2 seconds back now, and I think the reason for that is because his tires are pretty old, but of course the hards are also 17 laps old, but of course they go longer. And with only 2 laps left more, do you think that Legend could go for the move on Ruffy, and do you think that Nando will make the move on Ruddy, or do you think he'll stay back for now?
I think Legend is really going to struggle to catch up to the top 2, and Nando is going to have the same difficulty trying to overtake Rudy, because obviously at this stage of the race that the medium tires are 12 to 13 laps old. So obviously we didn't touch upon it that much, but one Elliott came into the pit lane there for the fresh soft compounded tires. That was because his mediums would have been 19 laps old at the end of the race, with the recommended tire life being just 12 laps. He was obviously scared of a puncture, with OP Nando now actually making the move into Spoon down the inside of Rudy, and he moved himself up into P4 and is now actually on the back of Talent Factory Legend, who's really struggling on those mediums, and for good reason too. Those mediums are going to be close to puncture territory soon, and Talent Factory Legend will be lucky if he makes it to the end of the race without a puncture. Those mediums have really fallen off. They've got absolutely no pace left, and we're seeing that in the form of Debo, who's currently on the back of Kirio, who's got 15 lap old medium compound tires. So Debo is going to use his ERS and the power of Slipstream and DRS to look to the inside line, the superior grip of the hard tier, and that's actually OP Nando down at turn 1 on the entry. He's lost the car and he falls down to P7 after having a chance of getting a podium. He finds himself in P7. OP's day goes from bad to worse, as they are currently P7 and a net P11 for OP Tim after his penalty is applied. Meanwhile, Debo was able to get the move done on Hirio. He moved himself up into P5 and could possibly get a top 4 position in G League's first Grand Prix in CTC. He needs to be within 3 seconds of Rudy, but you can see Legend is letting Rudy through. Legend is going to try and hold up Debo to allow Rudy and to escape in a top 3 position. It's going to be difficult to do so, but the tactics are going to come into play. Meanwhile, Nando trying to recover some positions. He moves up into P6 after overtaking Hirio, who's under pressure from ETA Gustav, who looks to the inside coming into turn 14, and the second left-hander of Spoon, he moves up into P7. Hirio, absolutely no grip left in those 16 lap old medium compound tires. There is not long left to go, and NLR Axelino is currently coming across the line to get ready to start the final lap of this Grand Prix, with his teammate of DG Ruffy right behind him. Has a little look to the inside, decides that the team is more important than the driver. Legend allowing Rudy through to possibly try and pull away from Debo, and Debo's not actually making up the difference now. His tyres are also quite old. 19 laps he's done on those hard compound tyres, so P5 could be on the cards still for the Haas driver, who's got the pressure of OP Nando behind him on the softer compound of tyre, and only 14 laps old compared to Legend's 15. So we'll have to see if Nando can possibly make a final lap move, but it's going to be close. As things stand, your podium runners are NLR Axelino, DG Ruffy, and Talent Factory Legend. And it's looking very likely that NLR are going to win this Grand Prix. OP Nando Jr. still trying to find a way past Debo, but it is not looking likely. And as they make their way down to Spoon, Talent Factory Legend has had a spin coming through turn 12, and he falls all the way down to P18. That is because he has a rear right puncture, and he is out of the points paying positions. Absolutely brutal for Talent Factory, but as Talent Factory's woes continue, NLR are coming through the final chicane and the final turn of turn 18. NLR Axelino is going to cross the line side by side with his teammate as NLR complete their very first 1-2 in CTC, and only the second team ever to do so. It was absolutely perfect for NLR. They played the strategy to perfection. They went onto the hards and they kept a consistent pace. They defended from the one driver of Elliott behind. They did everything absolutely perfectly, and they have been rewarded for doing so. NLR are your race winners as they finish P1 and P2, and they will be taking P3 in the championship with 5 rounds left to go. NLR, a great round for them, and their drivers will be absolutely ecstatic. At Talent Factory Rudy in the Red Bull, able to manage a podium on 15 lap old medium compound tires. G League Debo finishes P4 in G League's debut race in CTC, with his teammate Ethan finishing P7. That is an absolute load of points for their very first Grand Prix in CTC, and what a way to kick off their campaign in this championship. OP Nando gets a top 5 position, with ETA Gustav getting some great points for his team. Ace Hero, after being on 18 lap old medium compound tires, manages to bring it home in P18, but the two big surprises today, OP Tim and Talent Factory Legend, getting so unlucky. A puncture on the final lap of the Grand Prix sees him outside of the points paying positions. But here is your podium for this Japanese Grand Prix. Today's winner, DG Ruffy, who comes home in P1 after his teammate crossing the line side by side with him in P1 and P2. And well, I mean, NLR, they really could not have done better that Grand Prix. And a 1-2, that is going to give them around 40 points, which is going to give them a massive lead over Outplayed Racing. And I think that's a result they can be really happy with. Talent Factory Rudy also getting a bit of a taste of the champagne as he finished P3 in this Grand Prix. But here is your final race classification. DG Ruffy and NLR Axelino complete. And NLR 1-2, Time Factory really onto the podium. Debo and Ethan completed double points finish for G League in their debut Grand Prix. Nando Jr. top 5. Gustav getting P6 and good points for ET8, who tried to take P4 in the championship. Ace Hero gets some decent points for Ace. 1 Elliott after obviously having to make that stop in the fear of a puncture. Sadly, finishing down in P9. OP Tim getting 1 point for Outplayed Racing as he finishes P10. And then Talent Factory Legend finishing all the way down in P13. The fastest lap of the Grand Prix going to Ace Grosjean. But wow. A 1-2 for NLR. I mean, you really cannot congratulate them more.
Yeah, so true. That was an immense final few laps. Honestly, I thought Legend would take it from them, but of course he did drop back, and at the end of the day he spun out, which led him to finish out of the points with that puncture, and that was the opposite of what we normally see. Of course, NLR, they're always there, but today they really showed who's boss. As Talent Factory, they had Ruddy in the points though. He finished in P3, so they did not lose out as much as Talent Factory and OP both did get a few points, but it is NLR who took the biggest batch possible, and they will be up to P2, overtaking Outplayed Racing and very close to Talent Factory. So now is when the competition, Season 1 of CTC, spices up with 5 rounds left. It is all to play for. Of course, this was a one-off scenario, but next race, could they make it 2 for 2? We'll have to wait and see, as this is all for tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. It was a pleasure to commentate, and we will see you next week in this stage. Thank you once again, and that's us done for tonight.